早餐要食㗎嘛，
as well start to rebuild confidence and rebuild support among the population. 22 minutes past 8. Can it really be, after all the publicity and all the promises, compensation in the post office scandal for the people affected is still not being properly organised? Sir Alan Bates, founder of Justice for Postmasters Alliance, says it is a mess. He's been campaigning in particular for the 555 sub-postmasters who took legal action against the post office. The compensation they won was then swallowed up in part by legal costs. There's meant to be a scheme to overcome that and give them the same as everyone else. I've been talking to Sir Alan about what is going wrong. But we started on a happy note the moment this week that he was knighted by Princess Anne for services to justice.
I was quite impressed with how much he knew about the campaign and what we've been going through and the problems we've got going forward.
She had a proper conversation with you about it?
I was certainly aware that she knew quite a bit about it.
And then the moment came and you were knighted, and my goodness, at the end of just an amazing journey.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just for me. You know, it's put the honour in the heart of the whole group in there and the campaign as such and what everyone's been through.
Because I use the phrase the end of the journey, and of course that is flat wrong, isn't it? Because the point that you're making this morning very strongly is that the journey hasn't ended and there's a lot still to be done. What is it that you think is going wrong at the moment?
Well, it's stalled, and it's stalled for quite a long time as well. I mean, there's too much bureaucracy in all of this. Someone needs to come in, take hold of it. I mean, it's not really the sort of thing government should be involved with anyway if you come from at the highest level. It needs to be driven forward, and what we're looking for now is government, the new government, to set a deadline for the end of March next year to make sure, certainly the GLO, the original group that took the court case against Post Office, to bring resolution for all of them to finish that off.
But why is that not happening at the moment? What is actually going wrong?
It's bogged down. I'm afraid there's far too many lawyers involved. It seems the lawyers money in this and not victims who are receiving it at the other end.
But are they actually haggling over the amounts of money?
Oh, yeah, questioning this, questioning that, wanting to see a business plan that was produced at the time, wanting a receipt from this, that and the other. All these things that we told at the outset wasn't going to be necessary. But now it seems that they're digging in on it, and it's just like people are processing this thing at a real pace. I know they did progressing everything at pace, but it seems to be a snail's pace.
Well, what they said to us, the Department of Business and Trade, saying support targets are shown quicker ones, and then after claims are submitted, they're concerned with setting a target for the GLO schemes, would put pressure on vulnerable postmasters who may not have time to finalise their pay from their lawyers.
Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it? It's the usual performance in on other things, but no, there's been a whole group of people that's managed to get through it when it's parameters are concerned. And I think it just needs a very firm, strong someone who's going to drive the thing to a promise or something.
你聽日要 cat Chris 嗰啲字啊，我係咪好 clever？ 你聽日係咪有 Chris？ You have Chris tomorrow?
I mean, it all seems to be going to the
Chris.
insurance and things like that.
你啊 dictation 啊係嘛 ？You
So I think, you know, get people around the table.
你咪 weekly 有個 Chris 咩哥哥
Let's move on.
？Chris 嚇 ？Chris 學校啊考試啊問串字啊哥哥 spelling test 啊 Is it tomorrow?
Rangers and Tottenham in action. On the Scottish side are awaiting Malmo. Spurs are opposing Hazard. Holders Liverpool will travel to Brighton in the fourth round of the Carabao Cup. They're to their place the goal down to Flash West Ham 5-1 at Anfield last night. Arsenal will be away at Preston with their own 5-1 win over the other side. Bolton 17. His first goals organised
플라스 주고고.
Everett. Now tomorrow it is the final draw of the Women's Champions League, but as it stands, there is only one WSL club in Europe's top flight tournament. Chelsea qualified as domestic neighbours, while tonight Manchester City and Arsenal will must complete the 7-11 qualifying to get into the main draw. And Arsenal remain the only UK women's side to have ever won the competition back in 2007. So to discuss all this, we're joined by Rachel Guldo. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
So Rachel, let's start with this question. Why do you think WSL sides are struggling?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of reasons which also are really important to address if we want to make sure that the WSL, is regarded as one of the best leagues in the world. I think historically, the Scandinavian and German clubs have invested over a longer period. I think obviously the recent success in England back to the Lionesses winning the Euros. Sometimes we forget that the WSL's actually only been 4 times since 2018. So I think there's an element of that, and also the experience of players and managers within the WSL that have actually won the Champions League. But we've seen a shift in that this year, certainly with Sonia Brockhaster, obviously the first player and manager to have won the Champions League that's come in at Chelsea and brought the likes of Lucy Bronze and that experience. So hopefully that's sort of changing and it might happen this year.
So a plethora of reasons there. You mentioned Sonia Brockhaster, the new Chelsea boss, and she said that the WSL fixture list is a bit crowded and is holding clubs back. Is there truth in that?
To a degree, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think in terms of the fixtures, the main reason for the qualifying problems that Arsenal faced last year is that those qualifying games often before the league has started, so there's an element of not having that rhythm. But the fixture congestion, I think it's the same for the other European sides that they face. I guess we've got the League Cup, the FA Cup, etc. But the other European sides have got that, and we talk about that issue in the Premier League as well. But the WSL has only half the amount of teams that the Premier League has. So I don't think there's as much of a reason there, to be honest.
You mentioned Arsenal. How do you fancy their chances tonight against the Swedish side BK Häcken?
Well, I am biased because I am an Arsenal fan. However, with them being at home and the disappointment of them missing out last year, I think they're going to be really determined to make it tonight. So yeah, I do have a lot of belief and confidence that they will get it over the line and qualify.
And in terms of the Champions League more broadly, would your success in that competition attract more players to the WSL and also at the same time stop some of the best players in the UK looking to move abroad?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've
had so much success over in England, and we have seen brilliant players come across, and it is the most competitive league in terms of more of the fixtures being competitive. And we have seen, if you look at the Chelsea and Arsenal squads, for example, we've got Sam Kerr, who's supposed to be one of the best strikers, coming back. Arsenal recently signed Caldente, the Spanish player that's got a lot of success in the tournament. So we are seeing more players come across, but I think to really put the icing on the cake, we need to win another Champions League in recent history to really be able to put a marker down as one of the best leagues in the world.
Makes a lot of sense. Rachel, thank you very much. And there's more on this on the Women's Football Weekly podcast with Ellen White and Jen Beattie. So thank you. At 9 o'clock this morning, Melbourne Bragg is here with In Our Time.
Good morning. We'll be talking about wormholes. The intriguing idea is
即係一日有日呢個
out there in the universe, there are shortcuts between distant galaxies. For these to exist, the universe would have to be totally govern itself in places, and there would have to be something to make the wormholes, and then keep them open. But is there anywhere in the vast universe like that? Could there be holes we might travel through from one galaxy to another? And if not, why not? That's Wormholes with Toby Wiseman, Katie Klopp, and Andrew Ponson on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds just after 9 o'clock. Back to today.
Well, we have the weather. The south will be very cloudy with heavy showers today. That's the south of England, whereas southern Scotland, northern England, Northern Ireland will have spells of rain mainly in the morning.
Some bright sunshine outside this morning, but obviously it's cancelled. Perhaps it's just me. I'm not
Terribly cloudy, I'm assured by this.
But not rest tonight. The time you're listening to today on Radio 4 is top weather forecast. Chris Aldridge for the news. The UK
UK and other major Western and Arab nations are calling for a 21-day ceasefire on the Israel-Lebanon border, following the recent escalation in fighting. The statement came after an emergency meeting at the United Nations Security Council in New York, where the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, warned that hell had broken loose in Lebanon. There's been a prolonged drone strike in the Ukrainian capital Kiev overnight as President Zelensky seeks permission to use long-range Western-made missiles against military targets in Russia. The Ukrainian leader will meet President Biden in New York later. The BBC understands that one of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, has not been invited to the government's International Investment Summit. Sources say it's because of the billionaire's social media posts during last month's riots, and Mr. Musk spread misinformation. The Ministry of Justice has said some prisoners who breached restraining orders were wrongly let out under the government's early release scheme.
X is the former Twitter.
The ministers say they're working urgently to return the last five to custody.
Twitter was bought by Elon Musk and it changed its name to X.
Even tuition fees and loans that convent are a mess. Virtually all universities charge the same amount, of course, even though some degrees are effectively worth more than others in terms of earning potential. In others are frozen, so the universities are in financial trouble, but the students' interest is charged on the debt and
instead of like
there is a solution.
just shouting at him or something. You can be as good as him. He's a human being, and you are as well. If he can do it, you can do it.
An associate professor at the London School of Economics. He is on the line. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning to you.
And it's complicated, isn't it, what you're proposing, as all of these things are, but nothing wrong with that. But just set out for us, would you, in as plain a language as you can, what the system would change to if it were adopted under the terms you're suggesting.
Absolutely. First of all, the loan period would fall from 40 years to 20 years, so typically when you're 41, any remaining debt would be paid off. The debt would never go up year on year, unlike today where debt can go up forever. It's a really depressing thing for students. But you would have to pay more in the short run, including a flat rate 10 quid a week, no matter how much or little you earn. But in exchange, I'm going to let you pay less into your pension for those 20 years, because you've got more time later to pay into your pension. And anyway, graduates are very rarely poor in retirement.
That's interesting about the pension line. So would that have a net effect, do you think? Or would the net effect be zero on someone's longer term pension if they're paying more later?
I've had a job all my life where luckily I've been over pensioned, so I wouldn't have paid more when I was more than 40 for services.
And that's been good take up of that.
Good time is not a new thing in Texas. We have had that for a very, very long time. But we use good time as both a carrot and a stick. It incentivizes people to participate, but they also get their good time taken away if there's misconduct, for example. So it's a tool. Good time is a tool. It's not in and of itself the solution.
And has it worked? I suppose is the key question. Is there a measurable way in which the authorities in Texas can measure and understand whether this approach is actually getting a reduced number of people going back into it?
Yes, we absolutely have brought down the prison numbers. We at one point had well over 150,000 people. We now have about 130,000 people, which is, to be clear, an incredibly large number of people who are locked up here. Texas is still very punitive. We still have the largest prison system in the country. But what we were able to do was to turn around the train. We had a runaway train of prison growth, and we turned that around. We reduced those numbers. Sad to say it's kind of plateaued at this point, so I don't know that we have done enough. But we were able to change the direction.
And did it cost a lot to do? Because that's the other thing, I suppose, when it comes to prison, people think of it as being underfunded and it being very low down the list of something that any authority wants to spend money, state or federal, in most cases. Were the costs quickly recouped that way?
There are certainly costs associated with investing in programs and services, but not doing that is even more costly because prison is the most expensive thing we can possibly do, and building more prisons is by far the most expensive thing. And when we have people who are cycling in and out of prisons constantly because they're not working, that is an expensive thing to do. So anything that involves a rehabilitative approach, programs and services, keeping people in the community, that is way less expensive than locking them up.
Jeff Reich, Director of the Prison and Jail Innovation Lab at the University of Texas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Time is 14 minutes to 9. In 1996, Malcolm Gladwell published a piece in the New Yorker that became the seed of his book, The Tipping Point. It became a bestseller, a global phenomenon that blended social science, history, pop culture, business as well. We look at how a single event can spark a movement, become viral. He has written a sequel to it. It's called Revenge of the Tipping Point, and he uses a set of fresh case studies to rethink and expand on those original ideas about how trends were born, catch on, and spread. So, 25 years after the publication of his first book, Malcolm Gladwell has been explaining why he felt the need to revisit the idea of the tipping.
So in the first book I was interested in, how can we use the rules of epidemics to kind of promote positive social change? In this book I'm interested in the other side, which is, are the rules of epidemics being used to further the ends of various policies and movement parties? Which two things have we done? One of the things that defines it is that the work of spreading whatever contagious agents can spread is done by a very, very small percentage of the population. The idea of consumer training. So I was chatting with a sociologist yesterday who studies crime on the west side of Chicago. And the west side of Chicago is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the West. And it's 50,000 levels of homicide there. He said to me, the homicide problem on the west side really only involves about 400 people. In other words, if you're the police and you're trying to stem that tide of violence, your concern is not with 49,600 people. Your concern is with an epidemic that seems from the outside to be as widespread and out of control as homicide on the west side of Chicago. That's a tiny population. That insight fundamentally changes how you police the west side of Chicago.
What about the Harvard Women's Rugby team as well? In a fascinating, tell us why.
Perhaps excessive interest in criticizing American educational institutions. And so I had a little chapter on trying to ask this question, why on earth would Harvard, the world's greatest institute, greatest university, have 10 years ago started a women's rugby? Which, rugby in America is an incredibly successful sport. So, you start with the puzzle. Why don't we suggest to universities that having competitive, if you compete in a sport that nobody participates in? I think that's important. Once you understand how Harvard is trying to control the curriculum at school, a big concern with it is understanding, well, when do the cultures of organizations or groups change? They tip. How many outsiders have to enter the closed before the kind of become safe and different? And they talk about that, what I call the magic third, where when outsiders cross the line to make that third they tip the group. Fundamentally changes the game. So if you're Harvard, you don't want to change. And you have to make sure that all of the outsiders stay in the third. So that's what they do. I won't go over the details. They have constructed this incredibly elaborate system of making sure that outsiders never get along with that magic third threshold.
It's presidential election season. I can't let you go without asking you about that and the way in which all of what you just outlined affects politics and affects political communication, I suppose, because you think of TikTok and all the kind of ways of communicating that there are now that weren't even in the last presidential cycle, actually, let alone the one before. Is it changing in a way that worries you, that interests you, that even makes you optimistic? What's going on?
But when we observe on social media what seems like a widespread belief, when you dig a little closer, you find out that it's all emanating from a very, very small number of points. During COVID, there was a whole anti-vaccination movement that was very strong in the United States. Turns out that it was sort of 3 accounts, or 4 accounts, were responsible for 70, 80% of the anti-vaccination discussion online, on Twitter and similar. That kind of profound asymmetry, I think we're seeing very much in this election as well. That you just scroll through Twitter, you think, oh, Americans think X. Not true. Americans don't think X. An extremely small number of people have attained an extraordinary amount of kind of social authority, and they're the ones driving that.
Does that mean that we should be more cautious about being worried about misinformation or disinformation, with which it's fair to say we're obsessed at the moment, that actually these things that are not true are less widely believed than perhaps we would think?
It is entirely possible for those small number of people to convince others of what they believe. I think the lesson is, when it comes to combating the rising misinformation, the places we need to go, kind of actively engage with the misinformer, much more limited than the country. We need to take on the entire population. We'd like the police in the city of Chicago. You've got to understand who your 400 are in this larger group of 50,000.
Malcolm Gladwell, author now of The Revenge of the Tipping Point. Thank you very much.
You had so much fun.
7 minutes to 9. How much should a children's birthday party cost? The days of a few rounds of pass the parcel, musical statues and a piece of cake to take home are long gone for most, sadly. But there is still a startling figure in a survey of parents that has just come out. It seems that the average these days for a children's party is £524. Ellie Gibson joins us. She is one half of the Scummy Mummies podcast. Morning, Ellie.
Good morning.
What is the Scummy Mummy view of that kind of sum?
I mean, I don't know where anyone's getting that money really, let alone what they're spending on. Are they icing the birthday cake with foie gras? Are they making the egg mayonnaise sandwich with Fabergé eggs? Because that is an astonishing amount of money, I think, to spend on a kid's party.
Have you ever spent anything like that yourself?
Nothing like that, no. I have been known, in less lean times, I did once hire a Jedi, which is actually cheaper than you think. You'd be surprised. Only about 40 Republic credits, I think it was. But last year I want to say hired.
Popular time with Logan Bragg.
Hello, in 1957, the American physicist John Wheeler coined the term wormhole, which we understand now as a potential shortcut between 2 points across the universe. It's an idea that sounds like science fiction alone, and it may well be. While wormholes offer a way to move between distant galaxies and even distant stars. Yet as scientists test for a wormhole's qualities, they also test the laws of physics, in which those applied to the huge can differ so much from those of the small, in case, as Einstein hoped, one unifying law might apply across both. With me to discuss the ideas around wormholes are Andrew Hodson, Professor of Cosmology at Durham University, Katie Clough, Senior Lecturer in Mathematics at Queen Mary, University of London, and Toby Wiseman, Professor of Theoretical Physics at Imperial College London. Toby Wiseman, before we explore wormholes, can you give us some idea of how large the universe is, and therefore why shortcuts might be desirable?
Indeed I can. It is extremely large. The starting point for thinking about how large it is to think about how old it is. And as we understand it, it's about 14 billion years old. So the universe started with a Big Bang, which is where we understand time and space originated as we see them today, 14 billion years ago. It's been expanding ever since, and the furthest out we can see in our universe is really the distance that light has travelled in that 14 billion years. So when we look at the furthest objects away from us, we're looking back in time, and the furthest we can see are the objects that were very early on after the Big Bang. And roughly speaking, when you do the calculations, that's something like 14, or of order 14 billion light years away. And for some context, a light year is an extremely long distance. So it takes 8 minutes for light to reach the sun. years, so before light yields. So the universe is roughly tens of billions of light years across. So huge.
So Toby, where's the wormhole supposed to be in the middle of all this?
So it really depends on how big wormholes are. If they're very small, they might be around us. If they're microscopic, subatomic in scale, there might be wormholes passing through this room now undetected. On the other hand, if they were really large enough that they're in the realm of science fiction, they're probably very, very far distant from us. Perhaps in our galaxy somewhere, but perhaps in a distant galaxy, perhaps billions of light years away. If they were too close, certainly there are none in our solar system, otherwise I suspect we would have seen them and the dramatic effects that would be seen around them.
Can you talk about what we hope to find